Is it true that a man was roasted alive? It was not a scene from a movie, but a horrifying reality that happened right in the heart of the Roman Empire, and the person in question was none other than one of Christianity's most revered martyrs. The 10th of August, 258 AD, Rome. The scorching summer sun beat down on the stone square, where a crowd had gathered not to celebrate a festival, but to witness one of the most gruesome death sentences ever carried out. A young man was led through a circle of soldiers, chains dangling from his wrists, but his face showed no fear. On the contrary, he walked with a strange calm, his eyes shining with a light that did not belong to this world. In the center of the square, a giant iron grill was placed on a pile of red-hot coals, a cruel instrument that would make even the bravest man recoil at the sight. The man was tied up, placed on his face. The iron was getting hotter as the flames licked at the flesh, and the smell of burning began to spread through the stuffy space. And then, in the midst of what seemed to be unbearable pain, he said, "Please turn me over. This side is cooked." These words not only shook the entire square, but also echoed through the centuries as a living testimony to unshakable faith. His name was Laurentius, a deacon of the Church of Rome, and his death became a sacred symbol of loyalty, courage, and undying faith. To understand how Lawrence came to this strange moment between heroic faith and the border of absurdity, we need to go back to the beginning of his story. Lawrence was born around 225 AD in the city of Huesca, in the Roman province of Hispania, in what is now Spain. The son of a Christian family, he received a strict education and showed a deep piety that was rare in his youth. While studying theology at Caesar Augusta, modern-day Zaragoza, Lawrence met the fateful figure Sixtus, who would become Pope Sixtus II. Their friendship was not only profound, but also changed the course of Lawrence's life. When Sixtus was invited to Rome, Lawrence accompanied him, and just a few years later, in 257, when Sixtus was elected Pope, Lawrence was appointed chief deacon of the 7 deacons of the Church of Rome. This was not just an honorary position, but a heavy responsibility in a dangerous time. Early deacons played a vital role in the life of the church, from managing finances to administering charity, caring for the poor, and guarding sacred treasures. But Lawrence took on this role just as the Roman Empire under Emperor Valerian launched one of its most brutal persecutions of Christians. An edict in 257 required all clergy to offer sacrifices to Roman gods or be banished. And just a year later, a second, more severe edict was issued. Those who persisted in their faith would be put to death immediately. But Lawrence's ordeal was not yet at its climax. The real storm had only just begun, and it came swiftly, without mercy. On the 6th of August, 258, while Pope Sixtus II was celebrating liturgy in the Praetextatus catacombs outside Rome, a sacred refuge for the persecuted Christian community, he was suddenly seized and beheaded on the spot, along with 4 faithful deacons. The news spread like a thunderbolt. Lawrence, heart-heavy, rushed to the scene to find his spiritual father. According to tradition, he wept and cried out as he watched Sixtus being led away. "Father, where will you go without your son? Where will you go, holy priest, without your deacon?" Sixtus turned and replied with a comforting prophecy. "I will not leave you, my son. I will only go before you. In 3 days, you will follow me." After the death of the Pope, the Roman government quickly turned its attention to Lawrence. Knowing that he was the custodian of the church's assets, the governor of Rome saw this as an opportunity to seize the sacred treasures. he ordered Lawrence to hand over all the treasures of the church within 3 days. Lawrence agreed, asking for time to prepare. During those 3 days, he did not try to hide the wealth, but went to every corner to distribute everything to the poor, the sick, the elderly, the disabled, the people abandoned by society. When the time was up, Lawrence returned before the governor, leading a crowd of unfortunate people. He pointed and declared, "This is the treasure of the church." This statement, with its dignified defiance, enraged the governor. Feeling humiliated, he ordered Lawrence to be tortured to force him to reveal the true location of his treasure. But Lawrence remained steadfast, asserting that there was no wealth more precious than the poor in the eyes of God. Angered by this steadfastness, the governor decided to execute Lawrence in the most brutal way possible. He would be burned alive on a red-hot iron grill, a punishment that would not only kill the body, but also serve as a symbolic punishment that would destroy both faith and courage. It is difficult for modern people to imagine the level of suffering that a person must endure when burned alive slowly. Unlike other methods of quick execution, this method involves the victim's body gradually being burned away by heat that is not enough to cause immediate death. Each layer of skin, each fiber of muscle is red-hot in a torture so prolonged that it is almost impossible to describe in words. In this context, Lawrence, a young deacon of the early church, is said to have uttered the provocative words, "This side is cooked, turn me over." Although some historians have questioned the accuracy of this account, suggesting that he may have been beheaded like the other deacons, his image, lying on the grill, calm and even humorous, has remained etched in the minds of Christians for centuries. According to tradition, during the torture, Lawrence prayed not only for his own soul, but also for the Romans who were watching him die. Some legends say that his face glowed strangely, and instead of the smell of burning flesh, his body emitted a pleasant fragrance. The story records that some Romans, including senators, were so moved that they converted on the spot. Lawrence's body was later collected by the faithful and buried in a cemetery along the Via Tiburtina. A century later, when Christianity was legalized by Emperor Constantine, a small church was built over his grave. The church later became the Basilica of San Lorenzo, outside the walls, one of the 7 Roman Catholic churches in Rome. The great fragrance of Rome. Lawrence's influence extended far beyond the city where he died. In his native Spain, he was deeply revered. In the 16th century, King Philip II built the monastery of San Lorenzo de El Escorial in his honor. The complex was designed in the shape of the grill used to grill his martyrdom. Lawrence's legacy lives on in art too, from paintings by Rubens, Fra Angelico and Titian, to the poet Prudentius's eulogy in the Peristephanon. What set Lawrence apart was not just his extreme suffering, but his ability to turn that suffering into a testimony to his faith. In declaring that the poor were the true treasures of the church, he articulated a principle that transcended his time, that value lies not in possessions, but in the service of others. His famous words as he was being burned at the stake, half joking, half self-effacing, have left many wondering, how can a man in pain, how could he have said such a thing? Some theologians have argued that it was not a self-inflicted suffering, but rather a manifestation of divine grace working through him. St. Augustine wrote that Lawrence loved God so much that he did not feel the fire. For many, his martyrdom was not only a demonstration of extraordinary courage, but also a testament to the transforming power of God's love, a love that can overcome even physical pain. Whether viewed through the lens of faith or history, Lawrence's story touches the deepest recesses of the human psyche. His name lives on not only in churches and art, but in the language itself. The word laurel derives from his Latin name, Laurentius. The story raises difficult questions. What do we consider our true treasures? What are we willing to sacrifice for? In a world that values comfort and security, the image of a man who can smile amid the fire makes us think again. Human dignity may not lie in avoiding suffering, but in the ability to endure it for something greater than ourselves. In the Catholic faith, Lawrence is remembered not only as a martyr, but also as the patron saint of all who preserve knowledge, from the poor to librarians to the Church's sacred books. He is even, with a touch of reverent humor, the patron saint of chefs, a gentle reminder of his gruesome end. Every year, on the 10th of August, the day of his martyrdom, the sky seems to join in the commemoration. On that night, the Perseid meteor shower cuts through the August night with an emotional name, the Tears of St. Lawrence. It is said that these are the sparks that once burned his body, now falling back to earth as sparkling meteors. And so the story of a man who endured a brutal death with serenity, with an unyielding smile, continues to touch the hearts of humanity. A testament to the power of faith to brighten even the darkest moments. But in an age when such sacrifices seem alien, can we still understand what inner strength enabled him not only to endure, but to triumph in the midst of pain?